Um, we will begin from the line that begins with the word hu. Shenimshach Etzem hamhus shalahem. Just a few lines above, middle of the page, Mem Aleph. We have made an attempt, multiple attempts, to identify, to the extent possible in our sechel, the meaning of the word Etzem or mehus. And we always make the point that Etzem or mehus is not something that stems from the world. In other words, the evolutionary process would never create an Etzem or mehus. And this is exactly how they view the whole existence, including the human being, from that perspective. That it's all functional. There is not an essential presence. And when we ask the question, what would be your reaction to the possibility of the world going to naught without anyone suffering? This suffering is a key word. In other words, there's no functional result. Nothing. Nothing happened because there is not an Etzem or mehus. Etzem or mehus is there, and it can be conceptualized exclusively from the perspective that the world is representative of a godly presence, not of its own presence. And it is God who's creating it, and God gives it that real presence. Etzem or mehus. Now that we are coming to this very precise identity of this Etzem or mehus, that manifests itself in giving birth, as opposed to mashpia sechel and midas, all kinds of different wonderful things. But Etzem or mehus is something else. This is the hamshocha coming from the Etzem or mehus of the nefesh. Therefore, if we should, so to speak, focus in on this idea and try to give it a little bit of a perspective, how does Etzem or mehus, how is it awakened in the first place? And how does it come to be nimshach? We realize that this whole hamshocha depends on one very profound principle, that one recognizes that there is an initial and a fundamental godly truth, and this is what allows the hamshocha of Etzem or mehus. If his truth consists exclusively of what he is aware of, there would be never hamshocha of Etzem or mehus. If I may, this is all b'tznius. We know that that the entire process is a very elusive process. What's going on? One of the principles, halachically, and from a perspective of the truth, is that it must be dark. Why does it have to be dark? The world insists, no, light is more conducive to whatever it is. Why does it have to be dark? Because precisely the opposite. That if there is any distraction from the essential truth, then you're in a different world. There cannot be any distraction. That is when you sense the godly reality. Now we continue on this line. The line begins with the word Hu Shenimshach Etzem Hamus Shalahem. And as we said yesterday, and it's actually pointed out by the comment on the bottom of the page, that the Shalahem ends in parentheses, because originally there was no end. In the close parenthesis was not included, was not found in the Ksav Yad, and they properly identified that it should be after the word Shalahem. But these two lines was just an insert to point out that the koyach sechel is also part of this Heloch. It also brings the Etzem koyach sechel. It's not a hamshocha from the koyach hamasculine, it's a hamshocha from the Etzem mehus of the koyach. And thus, this is the principal difference between hamshpoas haseichel la hashpoas hatip. Between the hashpoah that comes through in the sechel and the hashpoah that comes through in tipa. The hashpoah is haseichel, where the hashpoah of sechel iker hamshochosoi, its principle hamshocho hu rak mi bechinas his pashtus v'gilu yosh b'nefesh. It is it's initiated from the his pashtus and gilu yosh b'nefesh, because that the Rav, as we said yesterday, senses not the mitzias of the sechel, the logic and the structure of the sechel. That is not the hashpah. The hashpah is because there is the gilui oil benefesh. He lives with it. He has a life element in it. And the reason he lives in it is because he recognizes in this sechel, again, a truth that supersedes the mitzias. And therefore the hashpah sechel is from the gilui oil of the Rav. V'zehu, and that also explains what we say. The sheiresh hamshochosoi hu mikoya hamaskil. That the sheiresh, the root of the hamshochos haseichel, is from the koya hamaskil. In other words, hashpoas haseichel begins by the Rav, from that point where he has seichel, not from the point where he has a nefesh. To the point that he has seichel, koy hamaski. Shehu hamshocha levad kiniskil, and koy hamaskil is only hamshocha from the nefesh. It is not the etzem hanefesh. And hamshocha even from the etzem koy hamaskil, from koy haseichel. V'zehu, and thus this too explains the point that we made. The sheir, I'm sorry, Okmoi Kain, Okmoi Kain, and similarly, further down, Gam kishenimshach me'akoyocho atzmi, even when the sechel and the hashpos ha-sechel draws from the koyach ha'atzmi of the sechel, the way the koyach ha'atzmi is in the nefesh koyach ha'yuli, ein etzem o mehus ha-koyach nimsha bahem bazeh. The essence of this koyach, of the koyach ha'atzmi, does not come along, is not drawn along with it. Ki'im only. Rak, just that, mashe nimtzach mimenu oir vegilui levad. That from this koyach ha'yuli of the sechel, the koyach ha'atzmi sechel, nimtzu mimenu, it comes a presence from it, oil v'gilui.
This koyach ha'atzmi is referring to the koyach ha'atzmi of sechel, right?
Sechel, yeah.
As opposed to what we said before, the Etzem ha'koyach, or the koyach, the haylada, koyach ha'atzmi.
That's about nefesh. Yeah, that's the koyach ha'atzmi of the nefesh. So there, nimtza mimenu oir v'gilui levad. Nimtza, the word nimtza means almost automatically. Not that it's nimshach. It is not being produced and being brought forth. Because that there is a Etzem HaKoyach, therefore there is oil v'gilui from this. The Koyach itself is not engaged in producing this oil v'gilui. Let us stop for a moment and to want to understand. If the koyach is not involved in producing it, then how come it's there? What does it mean? So, stepping away for a moment and using some of the illustrations that we have had in the past. But we say, on a different level, on the level of the essential reality of the human being himself. He's also an atzmi. A human being is an atzmi in the world. He's an atzmi in the world not because he is self-made, but because his presence in the world is at the level that he was given the right by the Creator to be there. He was given the world. Therefore he has an essential presence. Because he's an essence in the world, therefore, wherever he is personally present, his presence, his oir, automatically is mispashat. Like we said, in your home, you don't have to bring yourself into your home. Your very presence automatically is identifiable in the entire home. That's what oir v'gilui nimtza becomes automatic. I think it's clear we understand this. We spoke about this many times. The same is true regarding the koyach ha-sechel ha'atzmi. Koyach ha-sechel ha'atzmi is also an atzmi. He doesn't have to declare himself. Doesn't have to actively produce and emanate sechel. By his very presence, there is in sechel. As manifest in the fact that a human being is a sechli in essence. A sechli in essence means that his first reaction to any situation is a sechelic reaction. Without contemplating, hey, watch out, take it easy, man. What are the consequences of it? That's not what he's looking for. What is the sechelic way to relate to this thing, to this situation? Why? Because there is a oyer ha-sechel that's emanating from the essence of the koyer ha-sechel. And this is immediately illuminating the situation. But this is only the oyer ha-sechel. This is nimtzo. The koyer ha-sechel remains in its place, and it illuminates the entire situation. Just like the sun illuminates by its presence the entire world, the sun itself remains where it is. The mitzvah, the Etzem, the reality of the koyer ha-sechel is not nimshach in the sechel. Avol hashpoas hatipo. But then, in contrast, the hashpoat of the tipo, iker hamshochoso, the principle of this hamshocha is etzem dafka. It is from the etzem dafka, exclusively. It is not from the oyer, as we said before. It is not from the oyer, from the recognition and understanding what a human being is, that this is where it's nimshach. It is nimshach from the etzem. As we said before, what is an etzem? Etzem is not what I am. Etzem is what the Rebbeinu made me. Why does anything in the world have an etzem? Because the Rebbeinu gives it a presence. This is its etzem.
We say that or and Gilui is coming automatically from the Etzem. It's whatever the Etzem is, there's going to be Or and Gilui. And how do we also say that Or and Gilui represents some kind of meaning or some kind of functional aspect? I mean, it's automatic. It doesn't depend on your recognition of any meaning. It's going to come. It's found wherever the Etzem is found. Why does it also not have an essential presence like the Etzem does?
It has an essential presence on the oil level. Like we said, that the sun itself, not the energy of the sun, not that which is created by it from heat, but from the presence of the sun, has an essential effect. And we said many times.
The day aspect.
Day aspect, for example. This is how the way we can demonstrate. It's a transformation. It's the reality of the sun itself that is present.
So why do we say that has to do with meaning, or in other words, why is that lesser? It's automatic.
It's automatic because an etzem stands for something. In etzem, it's an essential level.
That's standing.
This is what the whole last night's.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just pointing out. This is what we're struggling to point out. The etzem stands for something, but not because it complements it. This is its reality.
And that standing for something is less than that. That standing for something is sort of like.
This is like what's called the oyer.
Right. It's not the Etzem itself. The Etzem itself, you can't. It's totally beyond. But
Right.
the fact is, the Etzem, being an Etzem, does stand for something, and that's the or aspect.
Right. You have to, yeah, okay. I'm never going to attempt, because it's impossible, to give us a handle on this thing in words and in sechel. But we can distinguish it from other sechel. And by the sheer will to relate to it, we can relate, we can see it. Oyer makes things visible. And because it's visible, this brings out a reality in the world. Now, this object that you can see, does the object exist because it's visible or because it exists? It exists. That is superior. That is the essence of the fact that it's visible. Visible is a very, very significant thing. It tells you that this is an atzmi. But the atzmi is in a different category.
That's what you were saying the other day when you said, from the perspective of Etzem, the thing doesn't even need a place. It's just central.
Yeah. One day they'll go through all the steps that leads us to see this. It's phenomenally. The tipo is hamshocha from the Etzem itself, and this is why we brought in the point now. What is the Etzem? What makes the Etzem? What gives the Etzem a presence? Not itself. It's its creator. It's a godly presence. This is what makes it possible to the mamshech the Etzem. Like we said in our analogy of the tree, if the tree were preoccupied with making itself being, it would never be able to produce that which a tree is supposed to produce. Only because it completely is dedicated to represent that which is being made and given. The tree is not producing fruit to show off, look what I can do. It is producing fruit to show off, look what the Rebbe can do, what the earth can do.
That's why the Etzem can be nimshach?
Yeah. The Etzem of this tree, because there is a greater koyach that gives it a presence. It can be completely involved in nimshach. Doesn't have to stand aside and give something. Then it's not the Etzem. Then it's giving you an oyer.
Do you ever say that the Eibush himself is nimshach? But that claw would not hold true by that.
Well, that klal, to the extent that we can speak about it, holds true there too, but it's in a different arena. This is, like we said, the presence of the host. He's not nimshach, but his presence is there. The metzius of the world, the creation is through dibur. The Rebbe created all the various creatures. Vaydaber, Vayimer Hashem, Vayimer Hashem, Vayimer Elokim. what gives the world its initial presence? It is a presence of the Creator. That is what gives the world a sense of reality. It's a very deep and broad subject, but the tree element should suffice to understand. Because there we can clearly distinguish between the Etzem and its produce. And this mashal, so to speak, this illustration, is true in the case of the tree. Because what makes it possible for the tree to produce a fruit and a seed and so forth, it is not because of its own koyach, it's because of the koyach ha'oret, the koyach ha'isayf, that gives it a presence. V'zehu, and thus this too is the point that we say, the sheirish hamshachosah, that the root of this hamshacha of the tipo, hu mehakoyach ha'yulim ho'atzmiyim dafka. It comes from the koyches ha'yulim ho'atzmiyim. Meaning again, that it is because there is a koyach yuli, that's why the people can be formed. If it were only koyches at a functioning koyches at any level, even koyach hamaskil, it would not produce it. Like we said before, complete abdication of consciousness, of awareness, of knowledge, of seeing. All right, we will interrupt here. All right, have a good day, and we'll have a sechel tonight in the normal time.